In the beginning of the show, we're introduced to our heroine Yang, who works for Dingxian Optoelectronics, a light manufacturing company. She arrives late one day and notices the gate is unattended. In a moment of desperation, she decides to jump over to reach her cabin to avoid any repercussions. Unfortunately, Yang is caught by her manager, Miss Liu, who demands to know where she's been. She also hands her a document asking her to print 20 copies of it. Yang nervously explains that she was only getting coffee for herself. She then completes the task, but deep down she's fuming that Miss Liu can't handle such menial work herself. As the two are talking, the manager suddenly collapses. A terrified Yang tries to revive her, but to no avail. Shu, the company boss, enters the scene at this critical moment. He's visibly distressed and demands to know who's responsible for his assistant's condition. The crowd quickly points to Yang, saying she must have done something to hurt Miss Liu. Hearing this, Shu angrily declares that Yang will now assume the role of his assistant. He then instructs her to prepare and email all necessary documents for a meeting scheduled in half an hour. Although shocked by the turn of events, our heroine accepts the role and frantically searches her manager's laptop for the required documents. This proves to be daunting, as numerous similar documents make it difficult to identify the final version. Just then, Shu sends her a message reminding her that only 1 minute remains before the clients arrive for the meeting. This sends Yang into a state of panic, and she grabs the first document she finds. Shortly after, Shu begins his presentation, only to discover an embarrassing error. The document turns out to be a mere draft, and all the clients burst into laughter upon noticing it. After the humiliating meeting, Shu becomes extremely angry and scolds Yang. He accuses her of making a grave mistake and emphasizes the effort he invested in bringing in the clients. As he continues yapping, Shu realizes that it's 6:30 p.m. and abruptly ends the conversation. He then fires Yang on the spot and tells her not to return to the office. Following this, he rushes to the bathroom, but finds it under maintenance. Our hero is so desperate that he goes inside the girls' washroom instead, where he mysteriously transforms into a pig. Yang also arrives shortly after and hears noises coming from one of the stalls. Opening the door, she unexpectedly finds a small pig. She notices Shu's shirt and wonders how it ended up there, but she ignores it for now and decides to take the cute pig along with her. At home, Yang's roommate and colleague Sui Sui is surprised to see the pig and jokes about never having eaten ham before. However, Yang firmly states that it's a pet and can't be killed. The scene then cuts to our heroine carefully bathing the pig. Shu, who's still in his animal form, internally protests, but she remains oblivious to his true identity. She then examines the pig's gender and discovers it's a male. After the bath, Yang contemplates what to name her new pet. Sui Sui suggests naming him Shu, as their boss is a filthy pig. Yang considers it, but decides that since the animal is lost, they should call him Losty. Following dinner, she brings Losty to her bed and watches him for a while. She then tells him to sleep, as she needs to go job hunting tomorrow. As morning arrives, Yang awakens and touches what she expects to be the pig's body. However, she feels something unusual and realizes that the texture is not that of a pig. In a startling transformation, Shu has reverted from pig to human form. When Yang opens her eyes and sees her boss lying beside her, she screams loudly in shock. But Shu quickly covers her mouth and promises to explain everything later. He asks her not to jump to conclusions and clarifies that he's not here for any wicked reason. He then asks for clothes to wear, stating he must leave for work urgently. Later, as they arrive at the office together, the staff observe them curiously. Shu then assigns Yang some work and reminds her about the upcoming meeting. But this only frustrates our heroine, and she questions why she's still being given tasks, even though she was fired. Shu responds that he never keeps those who know his secrets far from his sight, and effectively reinstates her. He then announces to everyone that Yang is now his personal assistant, leaving them shocked. Later, as she begins her work, she can't stop thinking about the previous night. She wonders how Shu ended up at her house and what happened to Losty. The strange possibility that her boss could have transformed into a pig crosses her mind, but she dismisses it. Shortly after, Shu once again calls Yang into his office. He asks her why everyone is gossiping about them being together. He also accuses her of attempting to advance her career by leveraging their situation. Enraged by his words, Yang asserts that she is a loyal employee who has climbed up the corporate ladder through hard work and dedication. She then prepares to leave, but Shu unexpectedly grabs her hand. He asks her to keep the previous night's events a secret and threatens dire consequences if she reveals anything. Just as he's about to explain further, he transforms into a pig again right before her eyes. This finally makes Yang realize that her boss was speaking the truth all along. She marvels at the magic and admits she's never seen people turning into pigs before. Feeling a mixture of surprise and determination, she tells Shu that she will keep his secret under one condition. He must agree to 3 demands of hers. She warns him that if he refuses, she will expose him immediately. Yang then reveals the condition. First, he must never shout at her and always praise her for good work in the office. Second, he must not deduct her salary if she arrives late. Third, now that she's his assistant, he must increase her salary. The poor pig looks annoyed, but he has no choice but to agree to her demands. Later at home, Sui Sui shares an idea for a new product launch, electronic firecrackers, which would be pollution-free and safe for everyone. Yang praises her roommate's creativity and suggests she propose the idea to the marketing department. Meanwhile, Shu, in his pig form, is intently listening to their conversation. The following day, he casually presents the idea of launching electronic firecrackers during a meeting. The clients applaud the concept, while our heroine is left boiling with anger. After the meeting, she approaches Shu and confronts him about stealing an employee's idea. He responds by explaining that while the idea was indeed Sui Sui's, she didn't come forward to share it, so he helped her. Later, Yang apologizes to her friend and takes the blame for carelessly sharing her idea. But to her surprise, Sui Sui reveals that she's been promoted to the position of product manager, which was her career goal. She then thanks Yang and calls her a good friend. Hearing this, our heroine realizes that Shu isn't a bad person at all, and her perception towards him starts to change. Shortly after, she receives a call from a hotel. The manager asks her to come to room number 302 in Pinhouse, stating that a VIP client wants to meet her. She asks about the client's identity, to which the manager reveals that it's Shu's mother. Yang is shocked by the revelation and wonders why the woman wants to meet her, but she assumes it must be important, so she decides to go to the said location. When she gets there, the old woman offers her a sum of 5 million won and instructs her to keep it. She explains that the money is to help Yang manage her expenses, especially those related to Shu's frequent transformation to a pig. Mom further explains that if Yang takes good care of her son, she will offer her the Wugong group as a reward. Our heroine is left stunned by the offer and is hesitant to accept it. In response to this, Shu's mother starts recounting the family's history. She reveals that her husband started a pig farming business out of necessity and became a successful businessman. But one night after he killed many wild boars on Nanshan Mountain, an alien pig appeared in front of them and cursed their baby, Shu. The curse causes him to transform into a pig every evening until he turns 27, finds true love, and experiences his first kiss. Only then will he be freed from the curse. The old woman further explains that Shu has always sought true love, but every girl has left him upon discovering his secret. She urges Yang to consider loving him to break the curse once and for all. Later, our heroine returns home with Shu, who's now in pig form. She tells him about the conversation she had with his mother and agrees to help him out of kindness and a sense of duty. Upon arriving home, Yang encounters an old friend named Tao at her doorstep. She invites him in for dinner, and Tao recounts that during their youth, their parents had jokingly discussed the possibility of arranging their marriage. He further asserts that if not today, then in the future, he would marry her. However, Yang seems uncomfortable by his words. At midnight, Tao awakens and sees her sleeping on the sofa. He gets annoyed upon seeing the pig and comments that it's affecting his girlfriend's rest. He then removes Shu from the room and places him in a bag that's hanging on the balcony. The scene then shifts to the morning, where our poor hero is shouting for Yang to open the door. She eventually awakens to the commotion and goes to the doorstep. Tao and Sui Sui, also disturbed by the noise, emerge and question who's knocking so early, and they're both taken aback to see a half-naked man standing outside. Shu then introduces himself, stating that he's the owner of Dingshan Optoelectronics Company. He asserts that Yang is his assistant, so he has every right to visit her early in the morning. Feeling extremely jealous, Tao counters by claiming that he's Yang's fiancé. He then grabs her hand and insists they should hurry for a picnic date. Our hero decides to come along as well, since today's a public holiday. In the next scene, the trio arrives at a forest, and Yang very much appreciates the serene surroundings. Meanwhile, Tao labels Shu as a third wheel and suggests they abandon him. He wants to spend some romantic time with her, and that would be difficult with a creep lurking around. However, Yang vehemently refuses, as she knows Shu will transform into a pig after 6:30. She fears he could get lost or even hunted in this dense forest. Shortly after, a group of children nearby ask Tao to film them, and he happily agrees. While he's taking their pictures, Yang approaches him in an attempt to scare him off. She points to the distance and claims that a man is photographing 2 elderly individuals. Tao doesn't see anything, so he zooms in on the video. Our heroine further insists that the man has just pushed the elderly individuals off the mountain. This scares the poor guy, and he desperately tries to look for the people, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Yang keeps up the act, saying that if a murder were to occur in such a dense forest, it would be extremely difficult to locate the body. Tao is now visibly terrified, and he asks Yang to take over the filming. He then comes up with some bullshit excuse to leave, and quickly runs away from there. Later that evening, we see Shu and Yang wandering the streets. He soon reverts to his pig form, so she picks him up and returns home. The next day, Yang and Shu arrive at work and discuss their company's dire financial situation. Turns out they need funds to invest in their new project. Shu expresses his desire to prevent the company's downfall and ensure the well-being of his employees. He admits feeling burdened by his transformation into a pig and fears it will lead to the company's ruin. In an attempt to lighten his mood, she suddenly kisses him. This shocks our hero, and he questions why she did it. Yang explains that she was just trying to help and that true love's kiss might prevent his transformation. However, when the curse doesn't go away, they conclude that the issue might not be the kiss itself, but the genuine need for love between them. To tackle this problem, Yang suggests they should be in a serious relationship. Shu also likes the idea, and they agree to be a couple from now on. The following day, she prepares a small date for Shu at her apartment. When he arrives, they drink wine together, and Yang suggests they praise each other to foster love. She begins by complimenting his handsomeness, independence, hard work, and several other qualities. Yang then asks him to do the same. Shu nervously starts calling her kind and complete, but she finds these compliments lacking and calls him a piggy. As he tries to respond, he suddenly transforms back into a pig. At midnight, Yang and her roommate wake up to find the washroom tap broken. Despite their efforts to reduce the water flow, they end up drenching the whole apartment. The next day, Shu is in a meeting with bankers who inform him that they cannot extend more loans to his company. He then decides to schedule a meeting with the bank's CEO in the afternoon, but they reveal that the CEO only meets people in the evening. Obviously, this conflicts with his schedule because he'll be turning into a pig at that time. But Yang suggests that he arrange the meeting at 5:30, which will give him enough time to sort things out. The scene then cuts to the meeting where the CEO, Mr. Wong, shares his proposal. He insists that Shu's company must improve their performance to qualify for a loan and proposes a reduced amount with a higher interest. As the clock is about to hit 6:30, Shu excuses himself to the bathroom. Yang then takes this opportunity to show Mr. Wong their latest project and emphasizes its potential. She hopes to secure a loan based on the project's merits and asks the CEO to reconsider. Following this, she excuses herself and meets Shu outside. Turns out he's already transformed into a pig. She then plans to make it look like he suddenly disappeared and committed suicide. After hiding Shu, she dramatically calls out his name by the nearby lake, attracting the attention of Mr. Wong and the bankers. They frantically search the lake, but find no trace of him. Shortly after, the CEO realizes that Shu has taken his life and becomes utterly emotional. He then vows to support the company and promises to lower the interest rate if Shu returns. Meanwhile, Yang secretly records his promise and plans to use it as leverage. The next day, Mr. Wong is shocked to see Shu alive and questions if he's a ghost. Our hero explains that he accidentally fell into the lake, but is unharmed. He then reminds Mr. Wong of his promise, while Yang plays the recorded conversation. This annoys the CEO greatly, but he has no choice but to keep his promise and grant the loan. Later, Shu reveals his plan to improve Yang and Suisui's living situation. He then takes him to his large house and explains that he lives alone and his family only visits on weekends. Therefore, he offers them the guest house, hoping to reduce their financial burdens. The girls are delighted with the spacious and well-kept rooms, and they immediately accept the offer. The next day, our couple heads to Huangshan City for an important meeting with foreign clients. The organizer then welcomes Miss Huo from China, prompting both Yang and Shu to exchange surprised glances. Turns out Miss Huo is his ex-girlfriend and the CEO of their rival company, Huangnan Technologies. During Shu's presentation, she raises a question, noting that her company has already undertaken a similar project as his. Shu fears that her comment could jeopardize their project. However, Miss Huo unexpectedly praises their work and acknowledges the creativity and potential success of their project in China. After returning from the trip, Shu instructs Yang to maintain contact with their old clients, regardless of whether they've received any orders. In response, she reveals that Huangnan Technologies has been stealing their clients for the past 6 months. Shu thanks her for the information and says he will look into the matter. One evening, Miss Huo invites Shu to a bar for a business meeting. She suggests that he consider collaborating with different clients to meet influential artists and attend exhibitions. Shu likes the idea and agrees, but he remains focused on his current project. Meanwhile, we see that Miss Woe is trying her best to get close to him and seduce him. This makes our hero nervous, and he discreetly texts Yang to come help him as he's about to transform. Woe gets increasingly clingy by the minute and even starts touching him. She hopes that their cooperation can extend beyond work. Unfortunately, Yang arrives at this moment and misunderstands their closeness. She is so devastated by the sight that she leaves without helping him. When she returns home, she drinks excessively and falls asleep. Our hero shows up a while later and lovingly holds her hand. Yang, in her drunken state, touches his cheek and calls him a stupid pig. She questions why he was out with other girls and unexpectedly reveals her feelings, admitting that she likes him despite his pig transformation. Shu is stunned by her words and asks her to prove it, and in response, she kisses him passionately. The next day, Yang and Sui Sui watch the news about the cooperation between Dingshin Company and Huang Nong. They also learn about the recent engagement between Miss Woe and a famous CEO. This worries Yang, and she assumes that Shu has gotten engaged to her since they were very close at the restaurant the other night. Meanwhile, Shu comes out of a celebration party feeling relieved and happy. He takes a photo, and Huo abruptly joins in as well. However, Shu says that he's deleting the pictures to avoid misunderstandings. He then congratulates her as he thinks she's engaged, but Huo clarifies that the ring she wears is related to their professional collaboration, not engagement. She then reminisces about their university days and mentions that he no longer looks at her the same way. In response, Shu tells her that there's someone else in his life who likes him regardless of his condition. Huo instantly realizes that he's talking about Yang and feels deeply hurt. Meanwhile, our heroine is shown angrily packing her belongings. Sui Sui urges her to stop and reconsider, but Yang insists that she must leave for Shanghai and find a new job. As night falls, Shu arrives home and considers knocking on Yang's door, but ultimately decides against it. He instead stands outside her room and thanks her for helping him understand the power of true love. But the next morning at work, he is shocked to learn that Yang has submitted her resignation letter due to personal reasons. In the meantime, Yang arrives in Shanghai and moves into a new house. She starts reminiscing about the good time she spent with Shu, but also feels betrayed as she believes he got engaged to Huo. Yang becomes even more annoyed when she remembers that today is his 27th birthday. Suddenly, she hears a knock at the door. She opens it to find no one, which scares the shit out of her. But then she looks down and sees a pig, making her realize that it's Shu. The cute little bugger is wearing a microphone, and he explains that there's been a misunderstanding. Yang initially thinks she's hallucinating from missing Shu so much, but the pig reassures her of his presence. He then claims that she's his true love and that he's moved on from Huo. Shu explains that the engagement ring she wore was just a misunderstanding, and their supposed kiss at the restaurant was actually her helping him with something in his eye. Hearing this, Yang realizes her mistaken kisses of the pig, hoping it will transform Shu back to his human form. However, even when the clock strikes midnight, nothing happens. The pig then guides her to a beautiful garden outside, where Shu is waiting for her. Turns out the pig is just an ordinary animal, and she kissed it for no reason. Our hero then explains that he's always loved Yang, and that the true love kiss she gave him earlier prevented his transformation. He admits that he was preoccupied with saving his company, and couldn't explain everything to her sooner. Confused, Yang asserts that she never kissed him, but Shu reminds her that she did when she was drunk. He then asks her to return to the company, offering her a promotion and a salary increase. Yang is thrilled by the offer, and she immediately accepts. They then share a passionate kiss and eventually reconcile their relationship. The scene then shifts to Shu's mother, who is narrating the story to the pet pig from earlier. The show ends with Shu and Yang happily reuniting and planning their future together.